Welcome back to the channel, Warhammer Man back in the studio, and today we're going to be demoing how to do a snow-covered base. So we have an Adeptus Custodes converted commission getting ready to go out of the studio, and the base is all ready to go. We just need to add some snow effects. So today we're going to be using the Games Workshop Citadel Valhallan Blizzard. But before we get started, I want to remind you to make sure to like and subscribe for Warhammer 40,000, Kill Team, Necromunda, Age of Sigmar, and of course warcry content as well. Everything from reaction and review videos to how-to painting, converting, and tutorials like this. We are a commission-based studio, so we show off the commissions as they go out of the studio. But that being said, let's jump right in. So we have our base all done. We have the model pretty much ready to go. Now the last step is to go ahead and do up the snow on the base. So here we have the base with our clear flight stand already attached and everything already painted up. We've got our little skull effect, some sand, some rocks, all kinds of ruins on there. And then we have our Valhallan Blizzard from Citadel. We're going to go ahead and shake that up really nicely, and then we're going to apply it to the base. We're going to go ahead and try to do it in a way that it looks natural. So we want to add the snow effect to the base, but we don't want to be covering up all the detail that we already did. We want to essentially allow the snow to kind of build up in a natural way, the same way that it would build up naturally like in an environment. But obviously we want to all the detail and color and painting and cool effects that we've already done to make sure that that stands through as well. So if you've never used this stuff before, it is basically like kind of a paste, and we're going to use two main tools to apply this to the base. We're going to use actually an old paintbrush with the tip cut off of it that was already ruined. They sell all kinds of fancy tools you can use for this also if you want. I prefer to just use stuff and then when it's done, throw it away, especially with like this texture stuff. So I went ahead and stirred it up real good, and we can see it's kind of like a gritty sort of like sand texture, almost with like a sort of like a kind of glue-like consistently. So it has like the grains and everything. This stuff looks really good when it's done. I know there's lots of other alternatives, but I do really like the Citadel stuff. So we'll go ahead and just apply some of it onto the base and kind of work from there. So the first thing to do is kind of get an idea where we want it on the base. So when I look at this base, I picture where would it naturally build up. It would probably build up around this piece that's kind of sticking up out of the snow or out of the ground. It would kind of build up around this area here, around the skull and everything. We want to make sure that that's still very visible. Around the edges of this here, down kind of in the cracks and stuff like that also. We had the option to do it around the flight stand as well, or we can just pretend like the flight stand's not there and not add any in. And then of course we want to just do kind of some around the various like cracks and edges around the edge here. But overall I want to leave a lot of the stone kind of protruding out of it. So we'll just kind of go from there and see how it starts looking, and then we can modify it as we choose. So now that we have a little bit of this on the base, we're just going to go ahead and kind of like spread it out naturally. Now I did already do the base rim for this. You could wait and do it afterwards if you wanted to. We might have to touch it up if we get some of this on there, but it should wipe off pretty easily as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and just kind of spread it around here. I'm just using like the thicker, more firm part of the brush to spread it where I want it. And then I'm just using the little bits of like the bristles and kind of like tip to make it go where I want it to. So when we first start doing this, it's going to look a little unnatural. We're going to kind of just spread it out as we go so that it looks a little more natural. It's in random places. There's no like kind of rhyme or reason to where it's at. We can create like actual texture in it using like the tip to kind of just stab at it. But essentially what we're doing is just letting it kind of go into the areas we want it at, and then we're going to kind of form it from there. But we want to make sure that it stays textured and that it looks like snow, how it kind of builds up around the edges, and then where it's more flat, it would be like blowing away. Right, so now we've just got a little bit more applied in various areas. We're just going to go ahead and keep spreading it out where we want it to be. So I want to make sure that I'm leaving like some of the rocky like outcrops or like the edges kind of hanging off without the snow on them. So it looks like the snow has kind of just blown off or already melted. Maybe the stone is heated up from like the sun or something like that. By just kind of like prodding at it like this, it sinks into the gritty texture and everything of the base that's already there. So then it's going to stay on, and then we can kind of mold it how we want a little bit better from there. And as we can see, it's already kind of getting that snowy look to it. We're just going to keep kind of building up on that the same way. And after we get like the big clumps applied, we're just going through and putting like smaller clumps in areas where we want there to be some snow. And then it will kind of stick to the snow that's already there. It does act almost like a glue in many ways. We're definitely starting to get that effect here. I like how the front is looking so far. I want to kind of build it out towards the middle, and then we'll do the back last. Right, so I'm going to leave the majority of like the rest of the skulls kind of uncovered. I want to just add a little bit around here. And again, I want to leave most of the stone uncovered. And then I want to leave some of the kind of like grimy, gritty kind of dirt stuff as well. So that we have all those various textures that we've already added in. So again, I want to kind of leave that little crack right there. But I want to kind of bring this together here. And then I want to work it around the edge there. I figure anything underneath, like in the shadows down here, it's probably going to take longer to kind of melt. And that's where it's going to kind of build up. We can just kind of rub our finger around to take away anything off that edge that we don't want there. All right, so we're just going to kind of clean this bit up here. And then we'll just go back through and add in a little bit wherever we need to. So that's what we have so far. Definitely looking good. I want to kind of work around this little edge here and get some down in the cracks there. All right, looking good. And then I'm going to maybe just do a little build up kind of around in the center here to just give it a little bit more like three-dimensional texture. So there we have a nice buildup. Just want to go ahead and kind of smooth it out like what the wind would kind of do with it. And I'm not going to do specific like buildup around the flight stand because I don't want to bring any attention to the flight stand. I just want to keep it looking natural. So it still gives the effect like the flight stand's not there. Now I'm just going through and kind of just smoothing out any little rough edges where there's bits kind of sticking up as like the wind would kind of erode away most of those edges and just kind of smooth it out over time. And around the edges where like the snow stops, I want to leave as unnatural of a shape as possible. So I have like these random little edges, no like straight lines, no circles, no round areas. I want them all to look natural. And again, the same thing right here. Like maybe I will go ahead and put just a little bit of snow peeking over the top of this, and then it looks like it's sticking out on both sides. It doesn't look like we've intentionally kind of skipped that area. I think I'm just going to add a little bit around this edge right here. Just want to add just a tad bit more back in here too. So all I'm doing now is I'm just adding a little bit of snow in a couple areas around the edge where it kind of just stops because I want to give the impression that this is just a tiny bit of the environment that we've just cut out. I don't want to give it the impression like this is just a base that we made all by itself. So in order to do that, I need the snow to continue on in those spaces so that your eye kind of gets like the natural feeling that if we weren't just on a base, that this landscape just keeps continuing on. I don't want it to look like this is just a base that we made specifically and everything is kind of focused towards the center of it and then it just like stops all of a sudden. So I'm just working a little bit around the edges here to kind of fill it out so it gives that impression when your eye looks at it that if you were to see more of this landscape, it would all continue just looking more and more like what we're seeing here. It would just be spanning out over a larger area. That's great. That's exactly what we want. And that looks perfect. So we're going to go ahead and let this dry for a bit. And then once it is nice and dry, we'll see the kind of texture come out and it will just kind of tighten up a little bit once the moisture is kind of evaporated. And then we can look at it, make sure everything looks good. And that is all finished up. But that is basically what we were going for. So that is it. That's all finished up. We have some rough areas where you can kind of see like the gritty and graininess of the snow. And then we have the smoother areas where it sticks up a little higher as if the wind has kind of like, eroded away at any sharp points or peaks or anything like that. And then we've just kind of rounded it out around the edges. So it's not all over the base rim, but it also gives your eye that impression like if this was a larger base or a larger piece of the terrain, that it would just be continuing on. And we still have left plenty of the actual stone showing through, some of the designs and everything. And then we have our rocky bits and sand and everything as well. Not only do we have multiple textures, but we have multiple colors. We have our skull. So we basically have a little bit of everything showing through here, and that is our goal. All right, so here we've given them plenty of time to dry, and we are all finished up with our snow base. Obviously, it came out very nice. Absolutely loving the paint job, loving the base. Just a couple tiny little bits, and this guy is ready to go. And here, just kind of taking a look at the finished base here. Looks absolutely phenomenal. Definitely gives like that real snow look. It's got a couple little like sharp edges, but overall has been like rounded out by like the wind. Really liking how all the different colors and textures all interact with each other. The stone and all the detail on it, as well as the actual snow itself. And then the little bits of like sand and kind of rubble down in there. And then of course our skull as well. So and the goal with the bases always is to make them look great upon close inspection, but not to make them so bright and vibrant and exciting that they take away from the actual models. Because in the end, the base is designed to accent the model, but the model is what it's really all about. So, and this base was created using the Valhallan Blizzard from Citadel. And if you haven't checked out the previous videos on how we make the Ruined Temple style bases that we started off with in this video, make sure you check those out. We have a tutorial on building and painting them as well. And here we have a converted shield captain on Dawneagle jet bike. This is the Relic jet bike available to the Adeptus Custodes. Very nice. Came out absolutely phenomenal. Custom paint job for our client. And then, of course, we have a video as well for how to magnetize the bases and how to magnetize the arms so that you can easily transport these bros. They don't break and are posable, flexible, and ready to go for your games. And lots of other tutorials on how we use our contrast paints, how we do our golds and various silvers, how we do the OSL like weapon glow, and also like doing like the screens and everything. So if you haven't dived deep into some of the tutorials that we have available, make sure you check those out. Tons and tons of wargaming content, pretty much anything you can imagine. But that's it for today for our snow base tutorial. I am Warhammer Man. This is Warhammer Man Studios. Make sure you like and subscribe for Warhammer 40,000, Kill Team, Necromunda, Age of Sigmar, and warcry content. All types of reactions, reviews, and previews, unboxings, and of course tutorials on making bases, painting, magnetizing, and converting as well. I am Warhammer Man. This is Warhammer Man Studios, and I'm out of here.